Hey, what is up guys? It is Slick, or Slickmoff here, back again with another video, here to give my thoughts on the news that Ben Affleck will not be directing the Batman solo film. So this is accompanied with the normal sort of cacophonious rhetoric that we get. And anytime there's any DCEU news, doom and gloom, oh, the DCEU is doomed, oh my lord, this is just a catastrophe and a disaster. And we'd be lying to ourselves if we said that the DCEU is going 100% perfect to plan at the moment. But DC does have a different way of doing things than pretty much every, all of Hollywood with tentpole film production, where there's a set date, which is what they did, in fairness, for Suicide Squad. There's a set date, you better have the movie done by then. And that's sort of what David Ayer ran into, and, I think that there's also been sort of slander going around that DC is a little bit more controlling than they probably are in actuality, and even so than other companies. For example, Marvel Studios, where we saw Joss Whedon basically just get trampled over in post-production of his film, and he ultimately left because he felt that he was sort of getting, taken advantage of. Not to compare this in any way to Marvel. Here's the thing that I want to get at, is that this is not that big of a deal. In fact, if you really think about it, this is only common sense that Ben Affleck would not direct this movie. How do I say this is so? Well, think about this sort of realistically. Imagine that you are Ben Affleck, okay? And we're directing this movie. This movie's being shot right now, okay? So we've got a scene coming up that day, okay, where it's Bruce Wayne talking to Dick Grayson in the Batcave, let's say, okay? And hopefully Dick Grayson is in the movie, or at least we find out what happened to him or whatever. But anyway, here's the point. Ben Affleck not only has to worry about his lines, his performance, which is taxing enough, especially if you're doing a tough scene, emotionally or physically, but you also have to worry about, okay, is Dick Grayson, whoever's playing Dick Grayson, you said that line where I want you to do more like this, faster, more intense, etc. All the stuff that the director does. And then you come across the concern of the camera. Is everybody doing everything right? Is the camera should be up here, not down here? What, do this, lighting over here. So as a director, you're micromanaging. Every good director does this. There's some sort of, even like James Cameron, Christopher Nolan even, who's less of a tyrant than James Cameron, but is still very, micromanages his sets. Again, in a less tyrannical way than James Cameron, but they're still very controlling. Almost all good directors are like that. They have a very specific vision they want brought out. If you don't have that, you're probably a pushover and a weak director. Generally speaking, I'm not an expert on film direction, but the passion will come through in the work, right? And if you're in front of the camera in 90% of the scenes, it's tough to do that. It's tough to get everything exactly the way that you see it, to bring your vision to life in the best way that you can. Because also think about how it works producing a film. At night, in your trailer, as a director, you're looking at dailies. What did you get that day? What do you need to reshoot? What was great? What was not great? But if you're an actor, it's totally different that night in the trailer on set. You're thinking about, okay, I've got 4 pages of dialogue to learn tonight because there's 3 scenes we're shooting tomorrow in a 12-hour shoot day. I've got to be at set at 5:30 a.m. to do hair and makeup. I'm Batman, so it takes an hour and 15 minutes to get my suit on, and 20 minutes if I have to take a piss. So I've got to, drink water at this time to make sure. There's a zipper in the suit, because that's specifically the advice that Christian Bale gave Ben Affleck. So anyway, that's actually not 20 minutes. You get the point. It's totally different. And the type of intensity involved with both the roles of actor and director are equally taxing in different ways. But to be the lead in a film and the director of not just a film, I can understand how you could do it in some movies. Even Live by Night to a degree. But to be, which flopped, by the way, which is possible. I started thinking about it, like, is this revenge for Live by Night? It's like, oh, you lost us $100 million, Ben Affleck, screw you. You don't get your Batman movie anymore. Probably not. My personal opinion, probably not. But it's possible. People have been saying that. Here's the thing about it, is that it's reasonable. It makes sense that Ben Affleck wouldn't direct this movie. We'd have somebody else come in, direct it, take control, and make sure that you put the right amount of care into everything a director should, because Ben Affleck won't be able to do it in front of the camera and behind the camera, which he'll seldom be. He's expressed some concern about that in the past, of like, how am I going to be in the suit and get out of the suit and direct certain scenes and go here and there, quickly and micromanage the sets and the costume design and everything like that. And what he began to realize, I think, is that as this film starts becoming more of a reality, it's getting closer and closer and closer to release, it becomes increasingly evident that it's impossible to do everything. It's impossible to direct and micromanage all the scenes. It's impossible to be the lead and master all the lines and deliver the best performance possible. It is impossible to do all that at once. And I think that as this film has become more of a reality, at first it was sort of this vague idea, like I'd love to direct a Batman movie. But as it's become a reality, by the way, coming out a decade after The Dark Knight, which is sort of a crazy thing to think about. Here's the thing to also consider. Sort of also looking at it from Ben Affleck's perspective. Built-in deniability. What do I mean by that in the context of a film? This may be something that people haven't thought about. I, Ben Affleck, before today, am the director, the writer, and star of the Batman solo movie. If the Batman solo movie is not the best Batman movie of all time, it's not 10 out of 10 IGN, whose fault is it? It's me, Ben Affleck's fault. I directed the damn thing, I wrote the damn thing, and I starred in it. Who else could it be? There's nobody else to blame, short of basically sabotaging WB and saying they ruined your movie in post-prod, which we know didn't happen if it's Ben Affleck. Now somebody like David Ayer, they can sort of walk all over, just like Marvel did with Joss Whedon. But here's the thing. You're not the director of the movie, so you wrote it. I'm Ben Affleck, I wrote it. I definitely starred in it, but I didn't direct it. So there's a certain level of Zack Snyder's involved and Jeff Johns is involved with the writing, so you can see how it becomes more of a team effort than an individual one. Very much so. Ben Affleck was like the shining beacon of the DCEU. He's gonna save the DCEU. It's his movie, that sort of thing. And in actuality, that's not really how film production works. I mean, very seldom. Again, unless we're talking about somebody like James Cameron, where Avatar is his movie, no doubt about it. Nobody else's, and anyone that touches it is going to get decapitated, basically. Even so, the case on Titanic and stuff like that. But it's just interesting to see again the very cacophonious, tired rhetoric that we hear from the media of the DCU is doomed. Oh my god! And again, not everything is going perfectly to plan. It's an ebb and flow. It's constantly changing. They're evolving and trying to figure out the best way to do this. They're just starting out. And am I worried about it? Not at all. And I think that it's going to be best for the film in the long run. 100%. 100%. In the long term, would you want to be Ben Affleck directing and starring in this movie? It would just be such an undertaking. Again, not the case for all films, but for the Batman solo movie, a $250 million picture, I wouldn't want to be doing that. Not a chance in hell I would want to be doing that. But I would be glad to write and star in it, and I think that's exactly what Ben Affleck is going to do. So I can't wait for the movie. I think that the script right now is sort of in a tough state from what Ben Affleck's been teasing about it. Maybe it's not exactly where they want it to be, and at that point, a page one rewrite is something they can maybe look at. From what I understand, it sounds like a Deathstroke movie. Batman versus Deathstroke. Deathstroke is the main villain. Doesn't sound super like the best Batman movie ever. I mean, you can't top Batman versus the Joker, and Jared Leto's Joker is not going to be that. It's not going to top Heath Ledger's performance in a solo Batman film. So I think the only option for the Batman solo movie, in my opinion, is an Arkham Asylum Batman film, infiltrating Arkham Asylum. And, I would recreate shots from The Long Halloween of all of Batman's Rogue Gallery sitting on the table, one of the most iconic shots in comic book history. Things like that, and I would really, jam villains in there, and that's sort of like a bad thing, like, oh, you're overflowing characters. That was the big problem with Suicide Squad, if you recall, problem, as people would say. But there's also something to be said, like, if you like the DCEU, you're gonna like the future DCEU films. If you like Suicide Squad, you're gonna like Gotham City Sirens. It sounds like the same damn thing to me. If you think about how movies like this would be set up, it's kind of the same thing. The Gotham City Sirens, for the effect of a film, is pretty much the same thing. It's characters being witty and sort of gritty and funny and stuff like that. And the same thing with Justice League. If you like Zack Snyder's directing style, you're going to like Justice League, period. I mean, almost, like 90% of the time. But if you hate Zack Snyder's directing style, you think he's a cuck, and you hate him, you're not going to like Justice League. You're just not going to. So just don't get excited for it, is the way I look at it. If you didn't like Suicide Squad, don't get excited for Gotham City Sirens. it might be a little different, and it seems like David Ayer's learned some lessons. But that's not to say that you can't like Wonder Woman. There's some films coming down the turnpike that are drastically different than what we've gotten. Not to say that, but if you're a DCU fan, there's a lot to be excited for. If you're not, then I think that they're making some changes that can maybe appeal to those that are not massive fans of the DCU at this current state. So anyway, guys, that's the video. Hope you all have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts on the Ben Affleck Solo movie. Is this a disaster? Is the DCEU doomed? Or is the media blowing this all out of proportion? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. My name is Slickmoff. We'll see you guys in the next one.